All right, here we go. Lee Mills, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here. Been looking forward to it for a while.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that I want to make sure I give you an opportunity to announce who you are and a little bit about what you do, and then I really want to dig into some of the stuff that I know that we're both really excited about. So yeah, tell us who you are.
Sure, sounds great. So hi, I'm Lee Mills. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Pixly. We've created the easiest way to document and collaborate on your projects with photos, videos, tags, punch lists, PDF reports, and soon AI. We mainly service building owners, construction companies, especially subcontractors, but also facility managers. We have over 2,300 users, over 22 customers, and we save some of our customers upwards of 45 minutes to over an hour a day per project. Our biggest customer is Kitchen Saver. They do 300 kitchen remodels a week, 600 bathroom remodels a week, and we save them 45 minutes a day per project. Our biggest customer here in San Diego, Sharp Hospital, they're utilizing Pixly for their 10-year capital expansion program, everything from moving dirt to the whole entire build out of new hospital buildings. Stoked to be here. I'm an entrepreneur for a long time. I've been an entrepreneur for a long time. I came to San Diego via the Navy, spent 4 years on the aircraft carrier USS Constellation. After that, I put myself through school doing telemarketing, which is why I have a strong sales background. And right after that, I became a sales trainer, then a sales manager. Then I was a branch manager. I had 200 sales reps. And I didn't really want to have a career in telemarketing. So I jumped into tech. I was one of the first marketing hires at backup.com. As you can imagine, they did online backups, but they didn't have a marketing budget. So I was tasked with going out and getting users and revenue and customers without spending any marketing dollars. So it's the very early days of the internet. And so I did that all through affiliate marketing and business development and partnerships. And so I'd find media sites that had our target audience, and I could easily see that they had unsold ad inventory. And I basically pitched them on doing a test with backup.com. And we would pretty much guarantee to beat their effective CPM, their cost per thousand impressions of advertising. And I would literally create 3 ads and 3 landing pages, and we would test it. And more often than not, we would beat their remnant ad CPM. So one of my biggest partners was PC World magazine, PCWorld.com. And she became my friend, Cindy Crow, said, "Hey, can you do me a favor?" I'm like, "Sure, Cindy, anything for you. What is it?" She goes, "Well, I have this client. They're called Olympus, and they're launching this thing called a digital camera, and they don't know how to do online marketing. Would you help them?" I'm like, "For you, sure, I'll do anything to help you." So I drive up to LA and I do a fancy PowerPoint and show them how I find the right audience, create ads, measure it, test, repeat, rinse the output. Like, we need to hire you. We're launching this thing in a month. We don't have a online media plan. I'm like, "Well, that's great. I just basically gave you a template. Like, here's how you can go do it." But they drilled into me and they really wanted to hire me. So I gave them a number, and it was too small because they said yes right away. But that was the birth of my first startup, was my marketing agency called Beyond Clicks. And then I partnered with other local agencies that were doing traditional media on how to do online media and early search and websites and stuff like that. That led to me partnering with an agency called SiteLab for a few years. That's where I really honed my SEO experience. And then I went in-house with a client called Anonymizer that did internet anonymity before VPNs were cool. Took them through a pivot and basically did B2B lead generation. So if you're into a TurboTax and you know somebody's coming from H&R Block, you can spoof them different content. Mm. Or a bigger example is if you're going to Al Jazeera from Mission Beach, you might see a certain amount of content. If you go to Al Jazeera from an IP address in Syria, you might see something entirely different. So the government became our biggest customer, had an exit with that, also had an exit with backup years later. Went to Switzerland for a year for turnaround startup. That was super fun. Thought I'd be there for 5 years, but it was just one epic year. Came back. I was number 3 at Mojo Pages. I'll wrap this up pretty quick. Had a great run with that. Helped them raise $5 million. Took them through a pivot. And then I fell in love with construction tech. It was never really on my radar. One of the original co-founders at Raiken was the lead engineer at Mojo Pages, and Raiken does what's called construction daily reports. So superintendents are supposed to do a daily report every day. Who came to the job site, what they work on, how many hours, were there any issues, and progress photos. And so he's like, "Hey, can you help me out?" I'm like, "Sure, here's a playbook. Here you go." He's like, "No, can you actually do it?" So I started setting up their programs and campaigns, and I started listening in on the demos. And that's when I had the aha moment. Like, these project managers and superintendents are my people. Like they're proud Americans. They're proud of their projects. They're like, I built that or I managed that. They work crazy hours. They get up really early. They miss out on their kids going to school. They're asleep when they come home. They've got a lot of stress. Lots of projects have disputes. And so I went all in on Rican and hired the first 2 BDRs, first 2 account executives, started to execute my plan, got them the 1 million in ARR in under a year, which is not an easy feat. Yeah. And part of my go-to-market strategy is to always partner with the bigger guys. So at that time, it was PlanGrid, who had just raised a large Series A from Sequoia, Procore, Trimble, and the other guys. That ultimately led to me joining PlanGrid. So I did that. That led to me becoming a fractional CMO for Qpix, which does what's called 360 reality capture. They're coming out of Korea and launching in North America. So as their fractional CMO, I built their personas, their strategy, all that stuff. Had a huge successful launch at Autodesk University. And then they wanted me to be their VP of sales and marketing, but we couldn't agree on what that would look like. And I know how hard that job is, and I wasn't going to budge. And that's the same time when the iPhone came out with the LiDAR camera. So I'm like, aha. So all the 360 reality capture stuff is really cool. However, they require extra hardware. They require training. They're always custom quotes. They're not easy to use, and they're not instant or automatic. And in the field, you can't wait a minute or an hour or a day to get a question answered. So that's when I came up with the idea for Pixly. So Pixly is basically Google Photos, Instagram, and Slack, or Google Photos, Instagram, Microsoft Teams had a baby for construction. So take a photo or a video, it's instantly shared, it's encrypted, it's secure in the cloud. Anybody can collaborate on it. Everything's time, date, location stamped, pinned to a map. And we help our customers save time and reduce the risk of disputes because 30% of projects have disputes. And across the board, the average dispute is like $50 million. So it's one thing if you're remodeling your kitchen and they painted the wrong eggshell color white. That's awful. Of course, that might cost $500 or maybe $1,000 to fix. It's another thing if they laid the foundation for a hospital 15 yards off center and it's on somebody else's property line. Those things happen. So yeah, so I'm stoked. We're growing fast. I got a new product manager joining my team. We're bootstrapping it. I could talk about that all day. And happy to be able to share the story and help as many people save time and reduce stress and reduce risk and spend more time with their family instead of stressing over documentation.
One of the things that I believe was when I first became aware of you and what you're doing with Pixly. And for some context here, I've worked in property management and asset management for, close to 2 decades. And one of the biggest challenges that I always felt like I faced was, why is it so hard to do these inspections? Like I'm on the property, I got to take the pictures, I go back and, I fill out a report, I do it, and it took so much time. And my thing was like, why isn't there something out there that makes this easy? Like I have my cell phone, I have internet, I should be able to do this easily. And so that's when I built the Portal View Inspections app, which was just for me trying to solve my own problem because I didn't see another solution out there.
That's right. I remember.
That's right. So then somebody when you first started getting this, I was like, oh my gosh, you did it. You solved the challenge that I had. And I was like, and you did it better than what I was doing. I did it from some, like just trying to save a little bit of time of taking photos and writing what it is and sending it to my client. But I feel like when I saw what you were doing, it had the feel, the ease of use, and everything it seemed seamless. And I feel like you really nailed it. And so it's been really cool to see and hear what you're doing and how well it's working. So kudos to you and congrats. Like, that's how you came to my attention. I was like, I got to meet this guy because so I want to talk a little bit about, so you didn't have necessarily a construction background. Like this wasn't your problem to solve. You were exposed to it by working with somebody else that was trying to solve that problem.
Yeah, I don't really have a hands-on construction experience. My parents many years ago did own some vacation properties remotely. We lived in Indiana, they lived in Florida, and managing them and people moving in and out was a nightmare for them, and they lost a lot of money and things went sideways. But yeah, at first, like I said, it was never on my radar. So I've done sales and marketing biz dev to CEOs, CIOs, CTOs, all types of consumer stuff, you name it. I never thought about construction. But when I started helping Raikin and I started talking to these project managers and superintendents, I started going to job sites because they're like, these people are like part of what makes America great. I mean, they are building America. That's just one thing, but they're also different because they're very direct. Like they'll just give it to you straight, which I think is really refreshing. Like just give it to me straight. If you're interested, you're not. I can help you or not. Budgets or not. Like a lot of other industries, a lot of other people, there's a lot of fluff, I guess is one way of saying it. Whereas I think like the AEC is just a lot more direct and upfront about what they need and what they're doing. And it's just also a massive, huge market. And there's 3 different workflows. You probably know this. One is like the original workflow is you go to the job site or the inspection, you take a bunch of photos, you go back, you download them to your computer, and you mark them up in PowerPoint or PDF or whatever, and you email them to dozens of different people. That's the one time wasteful workflow.
I know that wasteful workflow very well.
The other one is there's some great software package programs out there that are all encompassing that do everything. They do time cards, they do blueprints, they do financials, they do RFIs, they do everything. They also do photos. However, to navigate through all those features to get to take a photo sometimes takes 2 to 3 minutes in the field. That's forever. If you have to do that every day. So that's the second workflow. The third one is people just text stuff back and forth all day or use WhatsApp. And the reason that's a problem is because the dispute might happen like right now, tomorrow, or it could be like 9-10 years from now. And then good luck if your photos are mixed with your baby photos, your motorcycle photos, or whatever, you can't find them. So we make it easy to find everything by location, by tag, by person, by album, and then with AI through image recognition. That's what we're building right now.
Well, from what I've seen so far, you nailed it.
I don't have the words to tell you much. I appreciate you saying that.
Well, here's the thing that one of the challenges that people face when it comes to using new technology or using out in the field, and people that are in construction and property management, they'll say, "Oh, well, I don't want tech. Like it's too much stuff." But it's the same people that will spend hours and hours a day on Facebook and Instagram. And so my thought was like, there needs to be something that makes this as easy, doing a report as easy as it is to comment on your nephew's baby picture, on it, like make it that easy. And if you can do that, then you got something. And that's the feel that I get with Pixly.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, this is not my first startup rodeo. So before we wrote any code, like we took mock-ups and like what the UI and UX would look like. We met with customers, like, would you use this? First of all, would you use this and would you pay for it? And then if it looked like this, and then we basically took people through the workflows of how they would snap, tag, share. And we did all the design before we wrote any code. And then we tested a very early MVP with that look and feel and that UX before we went all in, which I highly recommend to anybody. I think we have a lot of entrepreneurs listening. Like, make sure your idea is something that people will buy. And don't just ask your friends, ask strangers that will tell you the truth. And then build an MVP and get early sales or letters of intent before you go all in and build up your total vision. Start in buckets.
Yeah, that's great. And so actually that's one of the things that I wanted to dive deeper in, doing this startup journey. And you've worked with a lot of different companies, as you mentioned, you've seen a lot of different things, but doing this and going all in on Pixly, are there any 1, 2, 3 things that stand out? Like, these are the biggest lessons that I've learned so far.
Oh man.
That's a big question. I know. I just threw it out there for you, but it's all yours to answer.
Those are good ones. I've learned a lot, and I'm still learning stuff, and some things I've learned more than once. Nobody has a time machine, but I started Pixly December 19th before COVID. Nobody knew COVID was going to happen. So I raised just the bare minimum to build my MVP and really early go to market. Had I known what was going to happen, I would have raised a lot more money initially. That's one for sure.
And was that an option? I mean, was that something that you said, yeah, this is what I need? So you're saying ask for more than you need.
Yeah. I mean, once I got to where I thought I needed to be, I stopped trying to raise more. I just went straight to building. And then because of COVID and offshore development teams and some other things, it took longer than we had expected. And then because that happened, and letters of intent took longer to get and it slowed things down. So yeah, I would say if you're going to raise money, raise more than you need. If you're going to bootstrap it, for sure do that, and don't give up as much as your company. I'm bootstrapping right now, so I've raised money and I've gone through all that money, and so now I'm back to bootstrapping until I get to the next phase, and then I'll go out and raise. And I need to do a capital raise because of the tech we want to build. There's a playbook for that, but I think that's probably one of the first lessons. And then just a basic business one, no matter what, is like always get 3 proposals from any like development company before you just like, if some development company just wows you and you're like in love with them, they blow your socks off and you think they're the one, they might not be. Always get 3 quotes for sure. Always get references, right? So I'll tell you, this is kind of funny. I get pitched all the time. Because I think I have interlock on my profile as an active investor. I'm not an active investor right now. I have invested in the past, but I'm not active right now. But people hit me up all the time like, hey, for such and such nominal fee, we'll reach out to all these investors, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, I'm not paying you to send cold emails to investor lists. But one guy was such a good salesperson. He almost got me. He was just persistent enough. So I went to his website and I looked at 3 of his testimonials and I called him. And 2 of them said, don't do it.
Wow.
So like, just like do your due diligence, like on any service provider, just be really careful. And I mean, the same thing would go for people you're raising money from, because you're going to be married to them for a long time. Make sure they're people you like. Like one of the reasons I'm an entrepreneur and I'm doing Pixly is because it's really important to me that I enjoy what I'm doing, which I do. I'm helping customers, which is like the number one goal. And I work with people I like. For the most part, I can control my team, right? Because life is short. We're going to spend a lot of time together. You want to make sure you got the right people on the bus and you're all going in the right direction for the same reason.
That's great. And one of the things about getting the 3 quotes and proposals, one of the things that I've realized, and in a project that I'm working on, the first person.
Oh, you froze.
Not one of the first people like blew me away, and I was like, oh wow, this is the team that I want to work with. But I still went out to other, and there were several, and I got more than 3. I think I got 5 proposals for part of this project. But it was they were on the throne to get knocked off, and it's like, hey, some other people, they need to come in and like wow me so much that these people aren't going to be the one, and nobody could. And so that made me feel good, like about my intuition and what I was doing. But I still, that's a great point to stand on, is that no, you always need to get multiple and get references, and it's very important. Very important.
It is. I mean, if you're going all in, you're putting everything on the line for this business. You can't have a bad decision like that, mess it up. I mean, I'll tell you, that's what happened. So we hired the wrong development company. The first development company did not do a great job. They missed their deadlines. They went over budget. They weren't documenting the platform as well as they should have. And we're a documentation company, so we should document our software. And so, yeah, it was, that did not end well. And ultimately, I had to rebuild the whole entire tech stack.
Wow.
That was
waste of time, money, energy. I mean, it's an expensive lesson to learn.
It was. So I will not, that's one lesson I've learned once and for all.
With the different resources that you may have reached out to when it comes to, startup, and I know there's a lot of incubators, a lot of advisors. Was there anybody or any group or any resource that stands out to you that was more helpful than another?
That's an interesting question. Because the entrepreneur journey can be really lonely. I mean, I basically lived and worked out in my garage for like 4 years with my motorcycle friends. Connect has been very helpful for me, actually. Pixly start in a way was born out of Connect. I mentor at Connect. I mentor at Founders Institute. I'd say the group that helps me the most is probably my veteran entrepreneur cohorts out of the PenFed Veteran Entrepreneur Investment Program. So we have a Slack channel, and we're all very helpful and support each other. I couldn't put my finger on just one group. I would say JP Morgan's been helpful. So I currently, Wells Fargo's about to go bye-bye. I'm moving our bank account to JP Morgan because they support veterans. I came in second place in a pitch competition last year for 10K, which is great. And which is a great story because Kyocera makes a rugged phone called a Duramax. It's actually a really cool, I'm an iPhone guy, but I'm really falling in love with this Android device. And I've been talking to Kyocera for quite some time about partnering. And they said, hey, Lee, congrats on second place. I'm like, thank you. They're like, you mind if we do a social media post on you? I'm like, no, please. So to my surprise and delight, they said, congratulations to Lee Mills and Pixly, our newest Kyocera partner. So as soon as that happened, I'm like, all right, we're building Android.
Yeah.
But so I would say JP Morgan, they've also introduced me to investors. I'm going to an investor meeting later this month. PenFed, Veteran Entrepreneur Investment Program. You have to be a veteran for that though. And then just like my own network and guys like you, like it really helps to talk to other entrepreneurs. And I have a really good friend, Pat Lang. So Pat and I met many years ago. He's a UX UI expert, and he was working for a company called Intrigue that I was pitching when I was wearing my biz dev hat. And he and I just started a podcast called Startup Therapy. And it's all about the trials and tribulations and how we can help each other, because it's hard and it's lonely. So you got to get out, like just talking to you right now is really helpful.
And first of all, your podcast, from what I've seen so far of it, it's really cool. It's appropriately named because I feel like we all need it. And like you're saying,
you want it. You're going to be a guest, I hope.
Well, you know what? It's the lonely part about it is, trying to figure out find the signal through the noise. And there's so much, and there's so many things happening. And should I make a left or right, or should I zig or should I zag? And it's so hard to do, but it's all on you. Like there's no, even if you have partners or things, like it's your decision to make, and you just do the best as you can. But there are times when it's like, you just, at some point you just got to jump. Like you take all the information that you can, you go for a walk, you sleep on it, and then you just got to make your decision.
Yeah, you got to make decisions. You can't sit on stuff for too long, but you need a sounding board. And there's lots of ups. Like when you have your initial idea, and like, I got this idea and it's gonna be awesome. And people are like, yeah, it's a great idea. You're like, all right, I'm on to something. And then you get LOIs, then you start building stuff, and then all of a sudden there's bugs. And then you're like, oh no, I didn't expect that to happen. And then capital dries up, or something happens, or a customer launch might not go as great as you had hoped. But then somebody comes in and says, yeah, I want 400 licenses. You're like, all right. So it's not this. It's not for the faint of heart. Like you have to be, it's by far the hardest thing I've ever done, but it's character building.
Sure.
But
that for sure.
So, I do have, I've got a great CFO who's on my board, who's been Tom Saftig, who's really helpful on my sounding board. I got a few other entrepreneurs. It's mostly other entrepreneurs to answer your question.
Yeah, and I think that having that tribe of mentors, people that are around, that not necessarily, some are ahead of you that have done it before, other people that are figuring out themselves. I think it's really important to have people around you in all those different levels, because yes, there are people that like, oh yeah, just do this. But it's like sometimes the people that are figuring out now, that just found something new, can be just as useful than somebody who's already went down that road.
Totally. I would much rather, I know a lot, but I certainly don't know everything, and I'm coachable and I'll take advice from anybody, but that advice is more well received from an entrepreneur that's done it himself than some VC who's never actually been an operator.
Mm-hmm. So so of all the tools that you use, and you mentioned that you are some of the resources for startup and fundraising and all those things, for your actual process and what you're doing, are there any tools that stand out that are most useful for you? Because again, this is tools, talents, and techniques, right? So
yeah, for sure.
So are there any? Because I hear a lot of people say Carta is good for like fundraising and capital and all. Is that like tools like that? Have you found anything useful in your startup journey?
I have not used Carta. JP Morgan has their own version of it, which saves me money. I don't have a crazy cap table, so it's very manageable. So at my core, my deepest bench is like startup, sales, marketing, growth hacking. So for tools like that, like right now I'm using a tool called Apollo.io. And I'm actually, right before this call, I checked out. I'm like, yes, I got a new lead. This guy's like, yeah, sign me up for a demo. And he's a pretty good size concrete contractor. I love the concrete guys. So Apollo.io is a good tool. There's a tool called Clay for lead gen, where you can find people you want based through Google Maps or LinkedIn or other tools. I used to love LinkedIn, but it's just getting bombarded. At least for me, it's getting destroyed by AI salespeople and people pitching me for things I have absolutely no interest in. But I'm in love with Apollo right now. HubSpot's my CRM. I live in HubSpot all day, every day. I use Mixpanel for our analytics. I'm spending more time on Notion, Google stuff, Google Sheets, Google Drive, Google Slides. Yeah, let me see. For growth hacking, I've spent a little bit of money on some Google AdWords, and I got an early 185% ROI on our first marketing test, which makes me super excited. And that's why I need money to put towards that, because I know I'm going to get a positive ROI. Yeah, those are the tools. Those are the main tools, my tool chest right now. I used to use other tools for LinkedIn growth hacking, but that's all been, that world's over.
You mentioned a couple of different verticals that you're approaching. So you mentioned the concrete, construction, all those things. Is there, if you were to slice up the pie, where is your focus, or where do you see that this has the best use? You mentioned Sharp, I believe, is the hospital that you're working with. I mean, is it the the construction? Is it the hospitals? Is it the REITs? Is there a specific place that you're like, I know if I had more opportunity with these type of companies or industries that I can really show them what we can do?
Yeah, it's all of them. Well, I'll tell you, I was coming back from World of Concrete, and our very first customer was a guy from a very large insurance company. And he worked for their catastrophe response team. He's like, hey, whenever there's a hurricane or an earthquake or a tornado, I got to go do photos of the damage. We're trying to find a better way. I'm like, you found it. So he was our very first customer. So I'm like, okay, I'm all in on insurance. Boom. But it's really hard to navigate up a giant behemoth like Allstate. But Liberty Mutual was an early customer. But to answer your question, I think our sweet spot at the moment is the small to medium-sized contractors and building owners. So, because buildings have a lifespan from the time they're designed to pushing dirt to when they're turned over, and for many, many years later, they require maintenance and upgrades and repairs. So, I mean, I love hospitals. We definitely want more hospital customers. One of our early customers is a guy in San Diego that owns 14 ITANs. And so and these tanning salons and beauty salons, all these tanning beds are high maintenance. They break, they need repairs all the time. And the owner was literally driving between Mission Beach, Pacific Beach, La Jolla, San Marcos, Oceanside, El Cajon, like all around, like every day fixing stuff. And he couldn't really enjoy being an owner, which he should. So now that he has Pixly, each location, each store manager has a Pixly account. They take photos or videos of what needs to be repaired. They have 3 tags. Priority 1 needs to be fixed like today. Priority 2 needs to be fixed within a week. Priority 3 fixed within a month, because they're the level of impact on the customers. So now he gets a daily report emailed to him, and you can see each workspace, each project, and the priority, and then he assigns it to people in the field. They go out and fix it for him. So they just renewed. Sharp just renewed. Everybody's renewing so far, so that's a super positive sign.
Yeah.
To answer your question, also, like, we still have opportunities with the ENR 400. So I have LOIs from several of the big ENR guys. We're just waiting for a pilot project. So with the ENR is an engineering news record, the top 400. So these are mostly billion-dollar companies. It's like the Fortune 500 of construction. Unfortunately, though, some of them have been burned on slick salespeople that sold them great software, but people in the field wouldn't use it. So because of that, they have to do pilot projects first. Then you have a successful pilot project, and then you can expand into the account. You can't just sell to the CEO or COO and everybody use it. So it truly is a spectrum. But right now, my focus is on the small to medium-sized contractors and building owners.
That makes a lot of sense. And again, through my lens and the property management side of things, I know what you have can add a lot of value. And then I think because of my experience and, I'm not, I would say PTSD, I don't want to make light of that, phrase, but it feels like it sometimes being in property management for so long. And like, I have an eye for that now. Whenever I go somewhere, even if it's a hotel, it's a restaurant, I look around at things like what's broken. And I'm like, well, how do you get that information and how is that? And I just think about it all the time. And I just think on the property management side, what you have can be a great resource. I also think on the hospitality side, I imagine like a Marriott or like a Hilton or something like that, like how
Yeah.
they have all that information and how that like it can make everything so much easier. And again,
Yeah.
that's one thing so impressed me about what you're doing is because you solved the problem that I complained about for over a decade. And so it's pretty exciting to see, and I'm excited to see how far you go with the rest of this.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Well, I'll keep you up to date on the journey and ping you from time to time.
So let me ask you this about because the startup therapy and you're having that podcast and you're talking about those type of things. How do are there any tools or techniques that you use for managing stress? Like what do you do when you have the lows? Is there anything specific? I know you laugh, but that's because it's so true.
That's my laughing is my coping mechanism instead of
There you
crying.
go.
Somewhat joking, not totally though. Yeah, I mean, you have to take care of yourself. Like a couple of things. Like as soon as I wake up, I pray. I just thank God I'm alive for another day. Thank you for this breath, another day, another opportunity, my family, my life, my career. And I immediately do 25 push-ups after that. And then I walk my dogs. And then I make my coffee, check my mail and stuff like that. And then I get to work. But somewhere throughout the day, I either go to the gym and I lift weights, I do yoga, or I surf. I do one of those three things for an hour a day to maintain my stress. And also so I'm just more efficient when I'm in front of my computer.
When we talk about yoga and some of these, well, the surfing, all of these things, were these things that you had in place before you started this journey, or any of these things new to you that you're experiencing?
Nothing's new. They're all things I've been doing for a long time. I mean, I've made the regrettable mistake. Try not to have any regrets, but when I look back on my career and I was an early employee at some of these companies I mentioned, like I was all in. Like I worked crazy hours. Like I did whatever it took. Oftentimes it was do or die. You either hit this revenue target and get capital, or the company's over. And most of the times we would hit it. But I missed out on vacations. I missed out on friends' weddings. My choice. Nobody made me. But those are things I did regrettably. And I'll never make those mistakes again. Like you still have to. The balance is a struggle for everybody, for sure. And there's nights I work till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, but there's also nights where I'm like, okay, I got to get a good night's sleep. I'm going to bed at 10. I'll get a good solid 8 hours. But whenever when I get blindsided by something, I just go for a walk.
That's been huge for me. Going for walks has been so great. And actually, I go for walks with my wife fairly often. We get to talk about things and strategies and ideas and how we do it. It's been one of those things where if you'd have told the younger me that I would enjoy walking so much, I would have laughed. No, I laugh now about it, but it's one of my favorite things to do now is just go for a walk, whether it be myself or with my wife or someone else. Like it's been the best.
Yeah, I mean, you can really clear some thoughts, clear some ideas, think things through. A couple weekends ago, I haven't done this since I had my daughter. I have a 2.5-year-old. But I'm like, I need to get away. And so I went to the desert and just camped by myself Friday afternoon, came back Sunday night, and it was incredible. The solitude. I did some reading, did some meditating, did a lot of thinking, and I'm going to make sure I do something like that at least once a year.
Maybe I should look into doing that, because I love camping also, but maybe I've never camped by myself, I don't think.
Well, maybe I'll take you camping sometime.
Okay. Yeah, sounds good.
Do you have a 4x4 truck, by the way?
I do not have a 4x4 truck. I have a hybrid sedan, and I don't drive fast. I don't drive off road. It's some of my friends that like ride motorcycles, do those things. I'm like, nah, I pretty much do the speed limit. I don't know if this is normal for an entrepreneur, because there's people that usually take these risks. But when it comes to vehicles, I don't take that many risks. I just do the speed limit.
That's okay. That's good. We need more people like you.
Good. Well, I'm glad somebody appreciates it.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. So listen, before we take off, I want to give you an opportunity. And I'll share your information and more about Pixly in the show notes or anything. Is there anything else that you want to share with the audience about you and your journey, things that you're excited about?
Yeah. I mean, if you're an entrepreneur, you got to go for it. You don't want to regret not trying it. Anybody can be an entrepreneur. It just takes grit and determination, and don't quit. It's so easy to quit. And there'll be times you're like, why am I doing this? And there'll be times you're like, now I know why I'm doing this, and it goes back and forth. But if you have an idea, you got to do it. As for me, anybody's welcome to try Pixly for free. We're available on iOS and most recently Android. It works on the phone, it works on the tablet. Anybody can try it for free. I can give a full-on demo in just 10 minutes. That's how easy it is to use. And thank you for having me on the podcast. It's been
it's absolutely my pleasure, and I'm excited to experience you on this journey, everything that you're doing, and you also you want to plug your podcast as well.
Oh yeah. So we just started it last week, and it's called Startup Therapy with myself and my buddy Pat Lang. So stay tuned for that. I'll share some links on LinkedIn, and anybody's welcome to listen. And if anybody's an entrepreneur and wants to participate in a delightful conversation with us about the journey, we'd love to have you.
Yeah, and it's a pretty sweet setup that you have on your podcast as well. It's I'm excited to watch that grow, and it's a needed topic to really explore all these emotions and the journey.
Yeah, thank you, appreciate it.
All right, Lee. Well, I'll share all your information in the show notes. Thanks for joining.
Awesome, thanks for having me. Have a great day.